Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Schenker-Passero. I am the Associate Director of the Temple Small Business Development Center. And today we'll be doing mini presentation, and then I kind of want to leave the floor open for more of a question conversation type of thing with today's webinar. So today we're going to be talking about digital marketing mistakes, specifically digital marketing mistakes that we're seeing some small businesses do right now during the pandemic. So we're going to talk through those. And that should be, like I said, a pretty brief presentation. I will say this presentation is fairly introductory. The vast majority of our trainings tend to be introductory. So if you are more advanced with social media platforms and digital marketing, this might not be the right webinar for you, and that's totally fine. You can hop off. It looks like from our poll, let's see the results here. I'll share them with you. It looks like from our poll, most of you are on Facebook and using a newsletter. So that's great. If you are at the stage where you feel really comfortable using Facebook, you're using it regularly, you have a great following, lots of engagement, again, this might not be the right session for you. But if you're still a little bit less confident with how you are using the platforms, then stick around and we'll have a nice discussion. So the Temple SBDC is here to help small businesses start and grow, and we're doing this with our consulting that's happening over the phone or via Zoom, and with our roster of webinars. And I will go over some of our other upcoming offerings a little bit later. So that's what we're doing in the pandemic. Our physical office is closed, so we have had to pivot, like all of you business owners have had to pivot. I'm going to stop sharing the results here. Okay. So we have attendees muted. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Preferably the Q&A, just makes it a little bit easier to manage since I'm on my own here today. And then I will address them, and we can have a conversation. So really encouraging questions for this session today. Okay. So like I said, we're the SBDC. We are part of the Pennsylvania network, and we are one of about 1,000 SBDCs across the country. And we're all designed to support small business growth. That's me. Some of the services that I mentioned. We'll go over this again. So we're going to talk about really briefly why digital marketing is important. I'm assuming that if you're here today, you generally understand that it is important, but we'll talk about it a little bit more, and then we'll do a top 5 mistakes to avoid, and we'll go into that. And then we'll have our Q&A. So this is at this point, 2020, pandemic, basically a rhetorical question. Do you use the internet to find goods or services? The answer is probably yes, right? Probably a lot these days. I know I do, and it's hard. I mean, I'm trying my best to shop locally using the internet, and I think it is important for that reason for small business owners to have just as much of a presence as large retailers, Amazons, all of that, because people are seeking that out. So why? I mean, you maybe know the basics, but why is it important to have this online presence? It may be intimidating venturing into this world, especially if you've been maybe a brick and mortar toy store, right? And you've relied on customers coming in, connecting with them, showing them around, suggesting the right toy for their age bracket, right? That might be how you've run things for decades. So it might seem intimidating to enter this digital world, digital e-commerce and digital marketing, but it's really important. You want to connect with existing customers and attract new customers. Your existing customers who maybe came in every year to do their holiday shopping, they might not be comfortable this year doing that. And if you can offer them an alternative, they can still support you, and they probably still want to support you. And attracting new customers as well. And it also demonstrates competency. And what I mean by that is having a digital presence and potentially an e-commerce presence showcases that you are a competent business owner, right? You are savvy, you are modern. I think that even when you go to a website, consumers are often even looking for the social media pages. Not that they have to be so extensive, but just the fact that they exist, that they have a Facebook page, that they engage semi-regularly shows a level of professionalism that helps build your customers' trust. It's also a good tool. And if you join me for my Facebook basics presentation, there's a little bit of replication here. I know that, but it's important to emphasize these points. So it is a way to research your competition, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you are on digital marketing platforms, you have the opportunity to research your competition. This is always something that we recommend, is researching your competition. But this you can do from the comfort of your own home. You don't necessarily have to go into their brick and mortar and kind of take notes and spy around, although sometimes previously, before we were quarantining, that might have been a great way to gather facts about your competition. And it's not illegal. You can do it. So you're looking for, what are they doing? What are they doing right? What ways are they communicating that their customers are really responding to? Are there certain posts that are getting a lot of attention, a lot of buzz? Things like that. How are they taking their photos? Are they doing videos? Are they doing more behind the scenes? See what they're doing right and see what they're doing wrong. It's also a space to gather and share new ideas. You want your, and we'll talk more about this, but you want to be a resource and an expert in whatever industry it is that you are occupying. And by posting interesting articles, tidbits behind the scenes, you're giving people more reasons to return to your platforms, whether it be Facebook or actually clicking on your newsletter and opening it, whatever it is. If they subconsciously, if your customers subconsciously understand that you are a resource, they will come back to you, as opposed to you just being a source of a good or a service. So social media and social networking, it's a standard now of how we communicate. It is a free or low-cost marketing tool, depending on your budget. It's a two-way conversation, and it's a way to appear professional. And you can't deny the numbers, right? So this is from last April, and we're looking at just millions of monthly users and the daily users of these platforms. It's just outrageous for Facebook and for Instagram. It's just not ever going down, right? Consistently, more people, more potential customers are using these platforms. So now that we've discussed why it's important, you probably knew those reasons already. Let's talk about the first mistake, which is you have not done a target market analysis. So target market analysis should always be a part of your business plan in general. So who your customer is, thinking about what their demographics are, and knowing the numbers, how many of this type of your target market exists in your geographic area that you serve. All of those should be in your business plan. And you can use a census to pull numbers, and especially if you do need to secure funding and maybe you're going to a bank, those numbers will be even more important, and it will show that you have done your research and that you understand your business. So citing the census with your target market in your marketing section of your business plan, that's really important. So what things are you thinking about? You're thinking about how old they are, what their household income is, and then you're thinking about what's called psychographic. So more like their hobbies, their shopping patterns, their almost like their personality type, right? If your demographic is empty nesters, right? And they, at that point, they have more disposable income. Maybe they're doing home improvements, they're planning for retirement, right? So it's not just age, income, right? There's just that you can get more into their behaviors and their patterns, and that's going to really serve you well. The more narrow you go, the better. When we have clients and we ask them, who is your target market? And their response is, oh, everyone. My product, it's amazing. It's amazing. Everyone should have this. Everyone doesn't know they need it, but they do. So everyone's my customer. We have to take a step back and say, okay, wait a minute. That is not doing you any favors, because probably you are not Apple. You are not Nike. You do not have a $1 billion marketing budget to promote, to buy advertising, to buy Super Bowl ads so that you can attract everyone on the planet, right? So you need to use your time as a small business owner. You need to use your time and your money wisely, right? I mean, that's important. And the more narrow your target market is, the more efficient you can be with your marketing dollars. So it's really important for that reason, because you can target it down and you can think, how can I best reach this population? Now, that does not mean that there won't be outliers, but in terms of efficiency of your dollar, your marketing dollar, you want to hit that meat and potatoes customer. That's what you need to do. And now at the pandemic, we need to do an extra step. We need to reevaluate. So how has your target market changed? Has your target market itself changed? And maybe you're looking at a different population, maybe, but potentially the target market itself and their needs have changed, right? So maybe the same type of person, the same type of psychographic, but their needs may have changed. So for example, we are seeing restaurants, full service restaurants, who are now offering provisions. So you can either in-store or via delivery, you could pick up eggs, maybe pre-made sauces, right? So appealing to their same customer base, but understanding that that customer base's needs, wants, compliance with safety, comfort, right? That is what has changed. So you need to adapt accordingly, but you still want to put yourself in the shoes of your customer, your target market, and think about, how can our offerings adjust to appeal to the needs of these customers? So this is a really important thought exercise that you should talk it over with people in your network. If you have a team, if you have a small team, that's great. If not, friends and family. Just shoot some ideas out there that you can work on together and think about, okay, my target market is this. Right now, during the pandemic, the people in my target market are probably working from home, wearing masks. They're probably, maybe they're doing outdoor dining, but maybe not comfortable indoor dining. You have to really, really play it out in your head and then think about what have their needs changed and how you can meet their needs. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm gonna see if there are any questions. No, I don't see any. Okay. Other examples, delivery, right? A lot of delivery. People want to be safe in their homes, And so delivery services, not just for food, for anything, and just making it easy is crucial. And people don't love big delivery fees either. So thinking about that. The next mistake would be not keeping in touch. So this is not the time to go dark. Our customers understand that this is a difficult time for small businesses. So pretending like you're not impacted is doing you a disservice. So I think that this is a time to be really honest and talk about the changes that you have been making. I think that it's more important than ever. So to break it down a little bit further, it is important that you update any platform listing that has information about your business, so that any changes to your hours or services is all up to date. So maybe you're on Yelp and your business hours have changed. You want to make sure that's updated. Hopefully you all have access to your Google listing. If you don't, go to Google My Business and you can claim your listing, and then you have control over all of that, and you can make any edits and you can change the hours. Obviously make sure that your website has any updates that you're doing, but you really want to make sure that that is tight, because a customer who plans on showing up to buy a cupcake from your business, they come, they put on their mask, right? And you're closed that day because you're open maybe 3 days a week instead of 5, they're going to be really disappointed. So it's super important that you maintain all of those platforms with any updates. Google yourself and find out where you're even listed. You might not know, maybe someone else put you on Yelp and the information is not correct. So you're going to want to do that. So I also think that it is important to make sure that your website has updates about what your response is like, especially if you have a brick and mortar. So talk about safety measures, talk about what you're doing. Okay. Let's see if there are more questions. Okay, I see something in the chat. Give me 1 second to look at that. Oh, okay. Hi. So I don't typically love the pop-ups that websites can sometimes have. And I don't mean an advertising pop-up. Sometimes you go on a website and there's a big pop-up and it says, sign up for our newsletter, and then you have to click out of it. I usually don't love those, but I think that a not terrible use of that is for COVID updates. So someone goes to your website and then you have an update and you say, our business has been impacted by COVID-19. Here are the changes that we made, with decreased hours or more delivery or whatever. And these are the safety precautions that we've been taking. Temperature checks at the door, requiring mask, blah, blah, blah. So it's not a terrible use of that pop up first thing when you get to someone's website. It's not terrible, because then everybody has seen that, or have it somewhere on the homepage. Have it easy. Again, it goes back to that expectation that our customers have, that we are professionals, we are savvy entrepreneurs, and we understand our customers want this information. Okay, so that's important. And on social media as well, more behind the scenes, more regular updates. I think that consumers regularly turn to social media with the assumption that there will be the most updated information there, that maybe the website's not quite as updated. So our customers, our clients, our consumers, they are going to our Instagram pages to see, okay, what's the menu today? Or what changes are happening. So it's important to, obviously not every post will be about that, but I think to regularly be updating your customers on what the status is with your business, hours wise, offering wise, you want to have it in there, and just be honest, because our customers are savvy and they can tell, and there's an appreciation when we are honest. Okay. So marketing mistake number 3, content without strategy. And I talked about this a little bit in maybe the second slide or so, that we still want to make sure that we are embracing the concept of being a resource. Now more than ever, I think it is beneficial for small businesses to be outstanding community members. And there are a lot of ways to do this. You could be supporting different nonprofits. You could be, maybe you have food that you're donating at the end of the day. I'm seeing a lot of pop-ups with percentage of proceeds of sales going to this nonprofit. And if that's too much of a burden for your business because you're really struggling, I totally understand. You can also be a good community member by supporting other businesses. And that support can just be spreading the word, saying, you're a toy store and you are sharing on social media that you just had a great contactless delivery from another small business that you would have typically eaten at, some cafe down the street that you normally had your Friday coffee and donut. You normally did that. And now you got delivery from them and it was great. People like that. You're supporting your fellow business owner. That doesn't cost you anything to do. So think about ways where you can be a little bit selfless, understanding totally that it is very challenging right now. Being a business owner is very challenging financially, but it still behooves you to have that, to give that, I don't want to say appearance because that sounds fake, but it's just a good practice, right? It's win-win. I will say that it is win-win. So I like to think about communication etiquette and being active to receive that engagement. So you never want to be entirely self-promotional, right? You want to be that resource for your industry. So I think percentage of marketing versus marketing yourself versus what percentage are you just communicating and offering tips and tricks and being informative. I would say you want it you want that percentage to veer more on the side of communication, right? So maybe it's 60 to 70% informative and helpful, and then the rest is self-promotional. So think about that, because it just leaves an icky feeling for our customers when they're just seeing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. It's nice to balance it out. And then how do we respond to positive and negative comments the right way? And there are a few different philosophies about that. And it depends on the platform, right? So with positive comments, depending on your bandwidth, you can respond to each comment and say, thank you so much for sharing. But I don't think it's essential if you really are strapped for time. Now, negative comments, the move is always to move it offline. Move it offline. That looks professional. You want to say, I'm so sorry for this experience. Please email me at blah, 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 and we'll talk more about it. Really important. And if you maybe know what happened, you can give a little bit of context if you want to, but be careful there. But if somebody is reviewing you negatively and it's obvious from the review that they did not they were not one of your customers. So maybe someone's reviewing you and said, the ice cream is terrible, but you've never served ice cream, right? You can say, I'm so sorry you had a negative experience. I believe that you are reviewing the wrong business. We've never served ice cream. So you can do that too. But the move is always to move offline and never to have a public debate. Does not look good. All right. Okay, so content, and this is something that I discussed at the with our Facebook Basics session. I usually like to talk about what not to share, which tends to be politics, religion, things like that. I would say that this has been an unprecedented, right? We hear that a lot, an unprecedented year. And if there are certain messages that you feel relate to your values as a business, then maybe there is a space to carefully speak about that. Always be sensitive, try not to be incendiary. But I will say that there's more room for businesses to have a voice on sensitive topics. So I will say that. And if you have questions about it, you want to talk it over, put them in the Q&A. So things that we can share, and this is the case whether we're in a pandemic or not, articles and advice, so tips, videos. People are really liking videos, especially DIY type videos, because people are so desperate for activity. So I was recently speaking with it was like a crochet sewing type of brick and mortar where they sell yarn and they also do lessons. And now they're doing lessons via Zoom, and they wanted to talk about marketing. So I said to them, have you done a mini lesson? So whereas maybe their Zoom lessons are an hour and a half, and everyone's paying, have you done a mini lesson? So maybe a 5-minute or 10-minute video where you're showing something, a technique, or how to correct a mistake when you crochet the wrong way. I don't know, obviously, but have you done something like that? And it's informational and also gets people interested in booking the class with you. So that I think is really great right now, more than ever, because people need to fill their time. So I think videos like that are super desirable for businesses to be sharing during the pandemic. Articles, behind the scenes photos, especially of things that maybe your team is doing safety wise, I think that's a really nice addition, and it's easy. So you may be so used to seeing your associate cleaning the square, like your point of sale system, just cleaning it off every time customer comes in, something like that. That may be something that's commonplace to you, but maybe you show a video of it, and then people will say, "Oh wow, they're being safe," and then it's content too. So it's a win-win: confidence from your customers and your safety measures, and just extra content, because sometimes it's tricky to come up with it. So I think that's a really great addition that you can do right now. And the obvious stuff, specials, you always want to be posting, news, right? And if you get permission, photos of happy customers and their masks is always good. Photos of your product, obviously, photos of your menu, photos of your list of services, photos and videos always get more engagement on social media platforms, right? So the time where we could just post words is a little bit dead. There almost always needs to be something else accompanying those words to get people's attention these days. So be creative, and if you have the time, it is always good to look around and see what other businesses are doing. Like I mentioned earlier about your competition, you want to copy what people are doing right. And it doesn't even have to be your competition. It could be a totally different industry, but maybe they're just sharing in a way that customers in your area, maybe a similar demographic, psychographic, are responding to. See what they're doing, see why it's working. Are their photo qualities so much better than yours? Maybe ask, maybe say, hey, who's taking your photos? Maybe they have a local photographer doing a great rate for them. Just ask. Okay, mistake number 4, ignoring basic SEO. And what does that stand for? Do we know? Search engine optimization. And I am not an expert in SEO at all, but I think it's an important concept to grasp. And so we'll talk about the basics of that. So, So SEO, the general idea is making your website look attractive to web browser hosts, which these days is probably going to be Google, right? Google just dominates and we have to make Google happy. That's just the reality. So there are easy ways without having to have too much technical knowledge of SEO. There are some easy ways to think about making Google happy, and to when you are working on your website, easy ways to boost your optimization. So what does Google want to see? Google wants websites that are easy to use and are regularly updated. So they want websites that will benefit their users. That's really what they're looking for. If your website is really, really hard to read, confusing, that's going to hurt you and decrease your chances on being on page 1. And obviously being on page 1 is the best. That's where we want to be, page 1. So think about ease of use. Have a friend go through your website and go through the full experience of using your website and navigating it, and give you feedback about how easy it is to use. Think about load time. Are there parts that are slowing you down? Content, new content is attractive. That's one of the main reasons why websites have blogs to begin with. It's not necessarily because they so desperately want to get the information out, but part of it is because there is updated content that makes Google happy. So that's a reason to have a blog, updated content. Google will also pick up on what your website is trying to be about based on keywords. So if you are a toy store and it doesn't say toy store on your homepage anywhere, that's going to ding you. So know that the order of words on your website matters. So the words that are at the top are going to matter the most, followed by the subtitle. So you might want to say Jamie's toy shop at the top. Then you want to have maybe like a little subheader saying learning toys to help your child learn and more. I don't know, but you want to have that higher up, and then maybe even add in Philadelphia, because geographic specific keywords are very helpful right now, because searches are going up in terms of toy store near me or toy store Philadelphia. That there's a pattern of increase in geographic specific terms. So you want to try and see if you can put that in there, but you have to make it look natural. You don't want your homepage to say toy store, toy store. Oh, it's hard to say. You don't want to have your website making it unnatural, because that's a cheat, and Google kind of knows that you're cheating. So that's why I say sensible keywords. Okay. And know that Google can read, but they can't see. So what I mean by that is if you have things that are image files, Google will not be able to take that into account. So a lot of times I will see websites where the contact information is an image. So maybe there's like a graphic that you like to use and it has your logo and the name of your business, the address, the email, a phone number, and that's an image. That is doing you a disservice. It is much better to type it out so Google can read it, and also so your customers can copy and paste it. I know I get frustrated if I'm trying to contact someone and I have to retype their email. I don't know, it takes an extra few seconds, but I'd rather copy and paste it, and that's how I know I get it right. Similarly, mobile friendly, right? You want to make sure that you check the preview to see how this is looking on mobile devices, because we know people are using their mobile devices to look at websites all the time, maybe even more so than desktop these days. More people have mobile phones with Wi-Fi than computers at home. So a lot of customers will be using it on their phone. And so you want the formatting to look right. And also, if you have your phone number and it's an image, they can't click on it and call it. Whereas if it is written out, they can click on it and then they get to call you. Makes it a lot easier. Ease of use is important. You also want to, like I mentioned, you want to make sure that you have claimed your listing on Google My Business. That makes Google happy because you're using their tools. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, whenever you search for a business, usually something will come up on the right-hand side. It'll be a block, and it will say the name of the business and basic information, and it'll show their location on a little map, and maybe some pictures will come up. And you'll be able to tell whether that business is claimed or not, because claimed businesses will usually have a lot more information. So it's really important that you have claimed the listing. So Google will automatically create these Google pages or whatever it is for businesses, for some businesses, not all. And then the information is not within your control, or they might not have done it at all. And that doesn't look good, because it looks way more professional when you have that Google box on the right-hand side. So just make sure you go to Google My Business, and just search it. I don't remember, the URL sometimes changes. So just search it and make sure that you claim your listing. They'll usually send a postcard to your home address, and that doesn't necessarily need to be shared. Just because you're giving them your home address doesn't mean that they're going to post that. You have control over what address you put out to the public, but this is a confirmation code, so you can go ahead in there and take control of the page. And I think that's a really important tool. All right, so the final marketing mistake is wasting time. What does that mean? So there are more efficient ways to gather and post content. So you may be processing what I've been saying, and you may be thinking, oh man, I have really been very self-promotional in the content that I put out, maybe too self-promotional. And I'm not even really sure where to pull information from so that I can become more of that resource that Jamie had suggested. Where do I go? That seems like a lot of work. Maybe you're thinking that. So there are some tools to help you. And now we're back to Google again, talking about Google. So if you set up Google Alerts, this is always a good idea. You can get up-to-date information, whether it's daily or weekly, you get to choose, but Google will email you a collection of news articles related to the search words that you put in. So the first one should always be your business. I have this example. Let's say that you are you are a business that does taxes and you're called Philly Tax Gals. So you'd want that phrase to be one of your alerts. And maybe you want to highlight any updates to the local or federal tax code that would impact customers, because that's really helpful. So you have all these searches like tax legislation new, tax law Pennsylvania, right? So let's say recently, actually, I think it was the city of Philadelphia made some changes for businesses with their utility and occupancy tax. So maybe you have this alert, so now you get the information, and then you can post the article and say to your customers, here's an article about this change to utility and occupancy tax code, and here's what it means. Let me break it down for you in plain English. That's nice. That is a nice informative post. So that's Google Alerts, easy to set up. Another one that I like is feedly.com, and they do have free access if you just want the basics, which is what I do. And this is like a Rolodex roster of all of your news sources, blogs in one place. So that way you don't have to search and open multiple tabs and say, what's that one website that I like? What's that other website? And then it just kind of gets a little overwhelming. This conglomerates them and allows you to see all of the articles from all the sources at once. And it shows you what you have read and what you haven't read. And that way you can take those articles and post it to your Facebook or your Twitter with some comment about whatever. Or it could just be, here's an article I found really interesting. But this is another way to collect that useful information, the informative stuff, so that you can make sure that you are a business that is also a resource. You are not just selling. Okay, so that's feedly.com. So scheduling is another time-saving tool. And there is, or if you didn't get a chance to attend the Facebook workshop that I did, there is a recording of it where I go over how to schedule within Facebook, which I think is just a huge time saver. And I like doing it natively in Facebook as opposed to using Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a platform where you can schedule on multiple social media platforms. So technically you can post the same thing on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, for example, but sometimes it comes out a little bit funky. So I personally prefer to schedule within Facebook itself and use their publishing tools. Hootsuite is really handy though, and so is Buffer. And they all have free levels that you can utilize. And like I said, careful of cross-posting means if you are going to post something to every platform, you can, and it can be a time saver. But I will warn that the nuances of each platform they're understood by our clients, even though they may not be able to say what those nuances are. There's just an awareness that the languages are slightly different, right? Like we're not going to be using hashtags all over Facebook like we would on Instagram. It just doesn't look right, and our customers get that. So just be a little bit careful. But if your time is so limited and that's all you can do, that's okay. So I usually say to businesses who are overwhelmed by posting, and posting on social media doesn't bring them joy, I say set out a time, a day a week, maybe it's Sunday nights, where you give yourself an hour and you set it up for the week. And maybe you set up 3 Facebook posts and 10 tweets and an Instagram for the week, and then you're done. So you can do that. And I think that it saves a lot of mental bandwidth to do the scheduling, because then you can just not think about it. You want to make sure that notifications are turned on though, because if people are responding and maybe someone says something crazy, you don't want that to go ignored, okay? And don't be afraid to hire help. Handshake is a website where you can find students to work as interns. A lot of businesses will ask about interns and unpaid interns, and having worked with many interns over the years, I would always recommend paying them or at least offering a stipend, because the quality of candidate that you are going to get, the accountability that you're going to get will be so much better if there is a paying incentive. It just makes it a lot easier for someone to walk away when they're being unpaid. And remember that student interns, especially on the undergraduate or high school level, they are going to require a lot of supervision. They may understand the world of social media, but they may not understand it from a business perspective. So they may need a lot of guidance potentially. Upwork.com is another resource where you can look for freelancers around the world. You can put in search settings for what you're looking for how many hours of projects they've done, for their satisfaction rate. If you are going to use Upwork, there are two ways to use it. You can put a posting up and let people come to you, or you can put a posting up and then do your own search and send it to those people who you like and say, here's an opportunity, are you interested? I prefer doing it that way, because then you can, you just get a better sense of what it is that you're looking for, and you can just target people who you think fit the bill better, as opposed to getting totally bombarded by people responding to your proposal. Okay, so let's see. Oh, yeah, that was about 45 minutes. And now I want to open it up to questions. So please put them in the Q&A or in the chat. I hope there's some takeaways for you from this. Let's see. So yeah, go ahead and post. I'm going to stop my screen share. And while you are posting questions, I am going to post a survey that we are required to have you complete by our funders, Small Business Administration, and the feedback is also really helpful for us. So if you do need to head out for the day, that is no problem, but please fill out the survey. Oops, that's not it. I'm seeing some questions in the Q&A, which is excellent. We'll get to that in one moment. Copy and paste. There we go. So that is the survey. And I'm also going to post our resource page in a minute. Let me see that question though first. Okay. Do you feel like many of these best practices will carry into 2021? Oh yeah, I definitely think that all of this is applicable. Vaccines are coming, right? But there's going to be a priority to who gets them, and safety precautions are still going to be needed for a long time. And also a lot of the things that I discussed are general and relate to non-pandemic world as well. Okay. Yeah, so feel free to post more questions. Please grab that survey, and I'm going to pull up our resource page like I mentioned. And I will take a pause. Here we go. Somebody is asking for the presentation. Yeah, I will send that out, and there will be a recording for this as well. We don't record all of our webinars, but we do record many of them. And that link that I just posted for you has a library of all of the webinars that we have recorded. So that could be really useful for you. And I will also point out some of our upcoming events. So we still have a few more, even though 2020 is winding down, we still have a few more webinars. We're doing one on the 14th on legal essentials for doing your business online, which is really good and a nice follow-up to this one, because we'll be discussing discussing your website safety and compliance and making sure that that you're doing things right. So that's I'm excited for that one, and that's next week. And then in January, we have cybersecurity workshop, we have a pitch deck boot camp. We also will be launching a monthly social media series that we'll be doing from January through the summer. So every month we'll be doing a social media workshop where we'll break down a different platform. The first one will be getting ready to enter the world of social media. We'll be talking a lot about content strategy similar to today and target market similar today, but more in depth. We'll also be doing an Etsy series in February that I'm excited about. And in mid-January, we will be running Rethinking Business in the Age of COVID-19, which is our 6-week business planning / business pivot course. So that's something that you can sign up for. There's a link on that resource page I just sent. We also have 4 classes that are entrepreneurship skill building classes that are really great. There is a charge, I believe it's $150 each, but there are ample scholarships for businesses who have been impacted by COVID-19. And those topics are Intro to Business Writing, Excel Basics, Fundamentals of Accounting, and Project Management Fundamentals. So these are topics that we've seen our clients really need a deeper dive into. So to register for that, you would want to talk to your consultant. All right, so that's what we have coming up. Okay, there's another question. All right, so there's a question, what one practice works best in highly competitive markets to gain new clients? And that's very industry specific, really industry specific, and it's target market specific as well. So I would say that's a great topic to talk about with a consultant one-on-one. And that's always a no-cost service that we can do But I would say a really fun and honest social media presence helps a lot, especially right now. And I would say websites that are easy to use and delivery services that are easy to use is helpful with e-commerce options that that look modern, so people aren't like, oh, this interface looks like it was from 10 years ago. That might stop someone from pressing purchase. Linking to PayPal. Sometimes people, I know, sometimes I don't feel like putting my credit card information in. Linking to PayPal with your e-commerce is really important too. And competitive delivery fees. So those are a few that I'll mention, but again, I don't know your industry, so I would say that's a great topic to talk about with one of our consultants. Okay. So go ahead and type any more questions that you have, but if you have to head out for the day, no problem. Please complete that survey that I sent out, and I will stay on for more questions, no problem, but I will say thank you so much for joining us. And if I don't see you again in another webinar, have a very happy holiday and safe holiday season.